Hello there. Hope you're doing well today. Thank you for joining me again. It is Friday, which is amazing. Daddy loves his Fridays. And today I have a new mic right there. I finally figured out how to work it out. I didn't need a grandson, which is really good. And I have a poke bowl with ahi tuna, white rice, pickled cucumber, and avocado. I'm gonna put some of this jus on it. It comes from a restaurant called Sea Surf that is near where we live. Shoot, I got a cherry coke. Oh well. Yeah. So today, I wanted to chat a little bit about forgiveness and like a real kind of forgiveness, right? Like I know what you did, and you know what you did, and we can just bury it right there and just move on, you know? It's a pretty heavy one. So, yeah, so I'll just get right into it. Hold on. I need to get my glasses. 1 second. There we go, back. Eyes feel better now. Yeah, so I have my drink, I have my food, and I have my attention span, which hopefully can last through this conversation, and I don't get too random or off topic for you. So I'm talking today about forgiveness with a family member, most specifically my mom. My mom died in 2016. She was about 68, I want to say 68 when she died. As if you watched a prior video, you'll know that I was raised by a single mom. My mom was in the automotive industry. She was what you would term a baby boomer. And I am Gen X. But my mom grew up with a father who was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. He was in World War II. After he got out of World War II, he went to work in the automotive industry as a bearing salesman. So my mom and her siblings traveled around the country quite a bit. My mom grew up idolizing my grandfather and wanting to be like him. The reason why was my grandfather was very genial. He could talk to pretty much anybody. He always had a great story to tell, and he was just pleasant to be around. He was just pretty cool. Also very smart. His brain was like an encyclopedia. So my mom, you know, obviously, like, these are all qualities that some of us wish we had, right? So my mom definitely wished that she had those qualities, and she did. She was very intelligent. She was beautiful, which my grandfather was kind of like me. Like, I pretty much look like my grandfather. Well, my mother was really beautiful. My grandfather, not so much. But she also had a bone disease, the same bone disease I have. And she also shares the same type, which means that she looked pretty much normal, right? My mom was very outgoing. She was in band in high school. She would run for class president, all that stuff. When she got out of high school, she met my dad. My dad was an amateur bodybuilder, which is another ironic thing about my existence. And they used to call him Rod the Bod because my dad's name's Rod, and yeah, he was just cut up, and that was his thing. He wanted to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, he was a mailman, and my mother and him met at the post office one day, and they just started dating, fell in love, they got married, they were married for a bit, and then a few years later they had me. And then my dad left about a year after my mom had me, which was a huge shock to my mom. And as a single mother, I can only hallucinate that, you having this baby with this person that you thought would be with you for a long time or forever, and you had all these plans and dreams and goals, and then it's just all shut down, and within a year of having this new addition come into your family. And you can't help but think that, is it because of this new baby that, you don't love me anymore? Don't know. I don't know. So mom would use me as a pawn a lot. And if you want to see Adam, then you need to give me this. If you want Adam to come over here, then you're gonna need to give me that sort of thing. And that really rubbed my dad the wrong way. And he was just like, forget it. So my mom kind of turned into a ball of fire, and just kind of went through having a bunch of different boyfriends. One boyfriend in particular was extremely unhealthy for us. He beat me and my mom quite severely, quite a bit. And my mom was just addicted to the guy. And if you in your life have a sibling or a friend who is in an abusive relationship, it's not easy to get out of. There are mental connections, very unique mental connections that are made that leave a person in an abusive relationship where they just keep going back, and you don't understand it. As somebody on the outside looking in, you probably don't understand it. And that's happened to my mom once, one big one. And it's also happened to my aunt as well, but we won't get into that. So throughout that relationship, that abusive relationship, there came a breaking point. A really big event happened where I got a concussion, and my grandfather was ready to draw weapons and just have at this guy. So the cooler heads prevailed, and it was decided that we would move to Michigan. We would just move to get away from this guy. So when I was 6, my mom and I got in an '83 red Camaro and drove from California to Lakeview, Cato County, Michigan. And we lived about 4 years there, and from 6 to 9. And that doesn't seem like a lot, right? Like, that's not even a stint in high school. But I'll tell you what, for a kid growing up from 6 to 10, that's very influential. And when we thought we were safe from Bob, we weren't safe from my mom when we moved there. And my mom became very lonely, very desolate. She felt isolated. Honestly, where we lived in Michigan, there wasn't a lot going on. It's just all farms. So you've got my mom, who is very much like life in the fast lane, like I want to do all the things, and we moved to this farm, which she was born in Michigan. There was just nothing for her to do than just work and drink, and so she worked in an assembly line, making bearings, and when she'd come home, she would just get super drunk, and I would get my butt kicked quite a bit. My mom broke my arm, twisting it too hard. I was beaten with hangers, like mommy dearest. It was crazy. It was really nuts. And mom, and even when we moved back to California 4 years later, and my mom got married, everything at that point had turned around. There was no more abuse. There was no more alcoholism. Man, there was even no more smoking cigarettes. Like, this guy that my mom had gotten with was totally just chill. He was a successful guy. He owned his own paving company. It was out in Monrovia, California. So everything like seemed pretty jamming. I got into school. I fell in love for the first time with a really cute girl who completely hated me. All the stuff that you would do as a child. I was now living it, instead of like living in fear and running away and trying to survive. Like, now at 10 years old, I can actually be a kid. So I was being a kid for a couple of years, and I actually did really well in school. But then my mom found out that this guy that she was with either suspected or found out that he was cheating on her. And she just jammed. She just took off. And she took off with me. We left pretty much all of our stuff there. Like, back then, you would think that, oh, well, she'll get half of it. It wasn't like that. We didn't have anything. We left with nothing. So we were homeless. And on the drive out of there, after my mom just pulled me out of the house screaming and yelling, and obviously she wasn't with this guy anymore. I think I was like 11 at the time, 12. I didn't know what was going to happen. Like, we were with this guy for 2 years. I had already put in roots. I was making friends. I actually liked a girl, which was crazy. I was building a social circle and feeling at home. And then all of a sudden, she's just like, nope, not doing this. And just grabbed me, rooted up, and we did Catholic school for a year. Pulled me out of my school where all my friends were, and we lived at the hotel my mom was working at, because we didn't have a home. And I did Catholic school there in a hotel. The Catholic school I went to, it was at its own place, but that's where I would come home to, was a hotel. So I really was really upset at my mom for putting me into Catholic school and tearing me away from my friends and my community. So I didn't do very well. And so my mom held me back. And so I had to repeat 5th grade. Ugh. No, I'm sorry, 6th grade. It was 6th grade. So I did 6th grade twice, which was really embarrassing. I actually had to go to a different school. They kicked me out of Catholic school because of that, because I was pretty all over the place. And then, pulled me out of that. I did 2 years, 3 years, we lived in Upland, and I went to school there. Mom and I just hopped from apartment to apartment. And then I finally laid down roots in Anaheim and went to school there for 4 years. You know, and then during that time, my mom was still really heavily drinking. She had a boyfriend at the time who was not abusive, but he really enabled her alcoholism. And it was so much so where at the time, my first job was working at the Jolly Roger, which was like a restaurant in Anaheim, and my mom was a barfly there at the saloon. And there were times when, you know, I go in and, you know, I'm working a shift and my mom's sitting there putting her legs behind her head in front of like 15 people, you know. So, you know, fast forward to when I got married. My mom hated my wife for no reason, like zero reason. So I was very, very perplexed with my mom because my mom's all I had, you know, other than my grandparents. But my mom was the only parent that I ever had. Like my dad wasn't in my life, right? So later on, my mom could not live by herself anymore due to her alcoholism. So she ended up moving in with my grandmother, and which I protested because my grandmother wasn't doing well. My grandmother was getting onset dementia, and she had just recently suffered a stroke. And I didn't, even though she lived by herself, I felt even more dangerous having my mom live there with her, simply because my mom would not be watching out for her. And if she was, it would soon turn off because my mom would be bombed drunk. And it got so bad to where I got a phone call that my mom had been laid out on the couch for a whole week, had not moved. So you know what that means. You know, she was also going to the bathroom on the couch, sleeping in it. And that's just all alcoholism. And I get the call. And, you know, it's just like, get the ambulance, just call the ambulance, take her out. They had to open up my mom's chest cavity. My mom was a huge smoker, pulled out a bunch of tar from her lungs, and then told her when she woke up, you've got probably about 6 months to live. Your liver is done. Like, you have cirrhosis of the liver, like, you're done. Well, mom ain't having that. And mom goes back, keeps doing what she's doing, and living with grandma. And at this point, my grandmother is completely just not the same person. If you've ever had to take care of somebody who has dementia, is getting older, it's very difficult because at some point they just don't even remember you, you know? So yeah, I haven't eaten in a while. So in 2016, I get the call from my aunt that my mom has died in Indio. She died by herself. When my mom died, she and I were not on good terms. So she had called me, I think a few days before she died. I didn't answer the phone, I just left it on voicemail. And mom didn't leave a voicemail. And so when my mom died, you always, like, if you've ever like been really angry at your parent, like, and a lot of kids will do this, they'll say like, I wish you were dead. And I don't know if we really know what we mean when we say that. because death is a lot like life. When I saw my daughter come out of my wife, I had an idea of what that experience was going to be like, but when the experience actually happened in the moment, I had no idea how to react to it. I was just, it was crazy, because I never thought I'd be there. Well, death is the same way, right? Like, well, you know, it's crazy, and because we don't know anything about it. But when it happens, we think we know how we're going to react to it when it happens to a loved one. But I started crying. I didn't think I'd cry. And I cried because, not because my mom was dead, but because of how she died. She died on the bathroom floor, alone. And when we went to retrieve her belongings from her apartment, my mom had been living on the couch with a bottle of vodka right by the couch. And she even hid the vodka. Even though my mom was living by herself, she would still hide alcohol, which I get. I used to do that with pills, which we'll talk about in another video. But yeah, anyway, so all this stuff that happened, Mom never apologized for anything she did. And I actually, one time when she was in the hospital, I asked her, Mom, why did you raise me the way you did? Why did you have to be so hard on me? And she said it was because I didn't want you to be overconfident. And I didn't know what that meant. So I spent a long time while my mom was alive and a little time afterwards blaming my upbringing for my situation, that I was addicted to drugs. I was that close to being an alcoholic. And, you know, I didn't go to school because my mom and all this. And if it wasn't for my mom, things would be better. But now I don't feel that way at all. Now I actually think about my mom every day. And in a good way. I ended up having a dream probably about a year ago where I was walking back at our farm in Michigan, and all of a sudden, like, I'm walking past this red barn that used to be on the property, and I'm walking with my mom, and I turn around to her, and she just says, I'm sorry, and holds me. And that was really powerful. And I think that one belief I have is actually something I got from a monk named Thich Nhat Hanh. He's no longer with us, but what he said really resonated with me, and it was about our connection to our families and our ancestors. And there's one of the biggest commonalities about all of us is our DNA, and that is passed on. Like, even though we are us, like, we are one person, you have one soul, that soul shares DNA from ages past, from a long time ago. And at any given point, if you focus enough, you can bring back those feelings. You can bring back that energy because it lives in you. It's part of your chemical makeup. And I really believe in that. And so I looked at that dream as a message from the universe to move on, that it's done. It's that my mom regardless of our past, will always love me. And regardless of my past, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here, for better or worse. And from my perspective, Earth's pretty cool. Got its downsides, but everything does, you know? And so now I live in that spirit that I want to just make her proud. I want to do the best job I can do and work that hard, serve people as well as she would want me to. And in that, I feel a strong connection with myself because I'm no longer tapping into the negative aspects, which are so easy to get to. They're so easy, they're right in front of me. But a lot of the times, the best books are the ones I'm back. You know? And so if I'm gonna pick up a book, I want it to be a good one, exciting one, a positive one. And because I've read enough negative books, right? Anyway, that's my story of forgiveness. I did a lot of yapping and a lot of eating. So yeah, but I hope you enjoy the microphone. I'm thinking about probably doing a little ASMR, but I don't think I'm gonna show my face for it. It's probably just gonna be my handies. But I gotta clean up my nails because they're rough. But anyway, I hope you have a really great weekend, and yeah, universe's blessings upon you. Have a great day.